Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's your hosts Ian and Gary.
Hello.
And today we're joined by Andy.
What's up?
And today we're going to talk about The Black Hole, which came out in 1979, which was quite an interesting year for science fiction films, especially space films. It was the year that Alien came out. It was also the same year as Star Trek The Motion Picture. And The Black Hole also came out preceding the likes of Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica. So you'll see a lot of influences and a lot of different ideas kind of congealing together with The Black Hole, which is Walt Disney's first live-action movie.
Yeah.
Ian, why don't you give us the plot for The Black Hole?
Well, the story follows the USS Palomino, which is returning to Earth from a long, deep space flight, and they come across the black hole in the recesses of space. This thing is just a swirling mass in the background. They start to get pulled towards it by its gravitational pull, and they come across the USS Cygnus, which is just lying derelict at the edge of the event horizon. As they come back from escaping the black hole, the ship comes alive, and they are taken aboard and introduced to Dr. Reinhardt. I absolutely love this film. It's dark for a Disney movie.
Yeah, it was their first PG.
Yeah.
It was the first time it was like an actual PG movie that they'd made. So
The film
that's pretty dark for Disney, especially in
Yeah.
1979.
I mean, right from the start, you know, they're in the deep recesses of space, and they're going to get killed at any point by this black hole. But then coming across the ship with that long swooping shot with the camera, this ship does not seem inviting. They should not go aboard that ship. But they're just drawn to it, you know. They need to find out because one of the crew members, the female psychic, her father was aboard the Cygnus when it disappeared 10 years ago.
They were recalled to Earth 20 years ago, their mission considered a failure. That ship just disappeared. They've never been seen again.
And then going aboard and being introduced to Maximilian, Reinhardt's personal robot bodyguard.
Identify yourself. What is your type and model?
There are some really dark designs, especially in concept, when you're looking at this as a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Because as the film progresses, you're seeing all of these robots, and some of the characters are picking up on the sense that something's not right with them. And he's like, I saw one of them was limping.
Yeah.
And, and all the while that Dr. Reinhardt explains that he sent the other crew back to Earth. They never got back there. I wonder where they went.
Dr. Reinhardt. My father. Where is he?
My dear child, I'm sorry to dash your hopes, but your father is not with us anymore. He's dead.
And the rest of the crew?
They didn't make it back?
They did not.
Pity. Was such a good crew.
I was glad he commented on that as well. Because when I watched it, I was kind of, the robot there, and he's kind of not doing anything, he's just not being responsive. And then he walks off, and I was like, that guy's limping. It's like, is he supposed to be doing it? And I was like, when he brought it up, I was like, I'm glad you said that, and it wasn't just the actor, it was just kind of I'll just waddle off. I'm a robot.
Maximilian Schell as Reinhardt is just the imposing character. He's got the crazy mad doctor hair. He's got the really weird stare.
Amazing beard.
Yeah, and he's got this crazy red-eyed robot in the background, just waiting to kill anybody that steps out of line. And they just happily go along with everything he says. I sent the crew back. They're fine. They didn't get home. Oh, I don't know what happened to them. Look at all my slaves.
Maximilian was pretty amazing. I like Maximilian. I like every time that he had to do something sinister, his little eye thing came down to narrow his kind of slit in his eyes, so these red eyes, and it just come down like, oh, he's pissed. Like that
robot always reminded me of the robot they used in Inner Space.
Yeah.
The one that they sent in to go and capture the other guy with the spinning blade.
Yeah, it did.
See, now we can't forget Vincent, voiced by Roddy McDowall.
Caesar.
Vincent is a dustbin that hovers, but he's got eyes, so he's got life.
Didn't you think it was because it was like 2 years after Star Wars?
Yeah.
Star Wars was 77, so 79, and it was kind of like we're Disney. Robots are popular right now. Okay, who was really good in that movie? R2-D2. What didn't he do? Hover. Yeah.
For me, it was the stamp of Disney. If you took out that silly robot from this movie, you might forget that this was a Walt Disney film. It was the fact that it was so
That's what it was.
It was so comical in all of its scenes, especially when it was attempting to give, expressions of fear or anxiety or whatever.
Out of the frying pan, hopefully not into the fire.
Are you all right, Vincent?
Nothing a hammer and a little metal polish can't fix, thank you.
But it should also be noted that in the actual pre-production of the movie, they spent an awful lot of time developing eyes, electronic moving eyes for the robot, but they just couldn't get it to work.
Clearly.
So as soon as they started production, they just abandoned it.
See, I thought that while watching this, I thought, well, R2-D2 versus Vincent. I reckon Vincent could kick R2's ass. He's got onboard lasers. This guy can just pull, 360 loop-the-loops around and just come firing back. He's a bit of a badass.
I liked his, when he meets, his retarded cousin.
Bob,
right, okay. And it was like, if you think about Disney kind of made a kind of decision on where they were going to go with certain characters, because he was the retarded truck from Cars. So it's like, anytime you have a busted robot or anything, you have to give him a redneck accent, clearly. Yeah. Like, hey, Vincent, I'm Bob.
You'd have beat him again if he hadn't bumped you.
Nah, I didn't miss it on purpose.
But it was actually
I made her.
It was actually voiced by Slim Pickens, who was renowned for actually playing cowboys in a lot of his movies. And I was actually annoyed with the film for not giving credit to Slim Pickens or Roddy McDowall for their voice work in either the opening or ending crededits.
Roddy McDowall, obviously, at the time, Planet of the Apes,
exactly,
and God knows what else, all the other stuff that he'd done. He was a big actor, definitely. I think most of that $26 million budget that they went, a fair chunk of that must have been Roddy McDowall. And Eyes, apparently. Making.
See, now we do have some other classic actors as well. We've got Anthony Perkins, obviously, from Psycho, and Ernest Borgnine from All Quiet on the Western Front.
Airwolf.
See, their characters, they're kind of integral to the story, but they are kind of just cannon fodder.
After watching the Psycho movies, though, when I'm watching this, I keep waiting for Anthony Perkins to just pull a knife out and just backstab somebody.
And he has that same face.
Yeah.
He has one face, and he uses it for every situation.
Yeah.
When you're clipping this, and you'll just pull up several different points of the film, and he's got the same fucking face throughout all of it.
See, but at the same time, like I said, integral to the story, because as it develops, you learn that Reinhardt wants to take his ship into the black hole, which science at the time deemed not safe, but obviously with the technology that he's developed. With Anthony Perkins obviously wanting to stay behind, the crew is then torn, and Ernest Borgnine launches their ship, which sets off just a lot of events towards the end. First, the meteorite shower just smashing up the ship.
Yeah.
How they survive in deep space.
How they didn't see that coming. You think of where they are and what equipment you would assume they have. They're going to be parked next to a black hole. You probably have some kind of way of seeing stuff around.
But from the Palomino smashing into them, it might have thrown them off course. They don't actually explain that. But
it is quite late into the movie where they really break science down and just throw it out the window. With the fact that it's so fantastical, the sets are so magical, they're so well explored. You see lots of different environments on different spaceships, and all of these ideas put together that you're drawn into the story. So towards the end, when it starts to go a little bit batshit crazy, you can kind of forgive the fact that they're floating in space without oxygen masks, tanks, or any protection whatsoever.
They kind of throw all their action beats into the last 10 minutes. The first 80 minutes was just a run up. The amount of shit that was about to kick off.
I absolutely love that scene where that giant meteorite smashes into the ship and they run along the gantry and this boulder of fire is just rolling towards them. I do sit there thinking, is that a real boulder of fire?
If it was a real boulder of fire, they probably would have just exploded in flames for being so close to it.
I did actually skip that back. Because when I was watching it, no, hang on, wait, I've missed something.
I like the obligatory fall over whilst running away from it.
Oh, and the Star Trek tilt the camera to make it look as if your ship is... I think it was very near the start, wasn't it? And they're coming into it.
Maximum, Dan! My God, I think it's got us. We're starting to tumble. 100% on the roll jet quads. watch, full capacity.
I did actually.
And
feel
I swear,
slightly
there was like,
nauseous.
if you go back and check, there might even be a coffee mug on that does nothing.
That doesn't
just stays there. It's amazing new coffee mugs.
This film does have a hell of a lot of padding to it. There's a lot of scenes of characters just walking down long corridors, sitting down, having dinner.
Yeah.
But they are exchanging some quite deep philosophical, moralistic ideas about what is right and what is wrong, especially with science involved and whether the ends justifies the means.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of those debates, especially in a Disney movie. So the film kind of panders to the kids with the robots, but does also adhere to adults watching the movie with some of those ideas.
They broke it up with Vincent, obviously, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because it's like you get this whole existential sort of like debate between Anthony Perkins and Reinhardt, and then all of a sudden Vincent's flipping upside down having a shootout with a robot. So it's, you know,
it balances.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite scene from the movie?
Oh, my favourite scene is right near the end, whilst all this shit is kicking off, and he goes to rescue the girl with the ESP. Sorry, I can't remember her name. You know, and he picks her up in her tinfoil hat, because in the future we will all wear tinfoil. And then there's a shootout, and there's just the best ever Buck Rogers style music playing over this shootout while they have this really kind of let's be honest, badly choreographed shootout.
The soldiers are all lined, aren't they?
Yeah, just nicely, literally take number. Sit the fuck
duck
down.
hunting along.
It was that, or just like the opening. You know when you've got the opening monologue over the top, and again the same woman, and you know I'm listening to it. I think this is why I probably missed if she maybe said the year, is when she says their mission was to find habitable life.
USS Cygnus. Its mission to discover habitable life in outer space. Same as ours.
And I was kind of like,
I was the exact same.
What, you're going to live in someone?
You're going to find someone to live on.
Yeah, it's like there's a reason they sent you people out to deep space.
There are quite a lot of goofy mistakes in the movie.
The script is very like
loose.
We'll go with loose. Yeah.
I do actually have quite a few favourite moments in the film, but I think one of my most memorable is actually watching Anthony Perkins' character. His death sequence. I mean, it's not really much of a spoiler because that scene was actually put in the trailer for the movie. But it was the only fact that the movie actually became a PG was because of that scene. And it was just the whole setup for it, the brutality of the robot coming in with the blades, and he holds up the book to protect himself.
There was a couple of hells and damns in there, I guess, which maybe pushed it over to the PG at the time.
Just a little bit, but for me, it was just a really funny moment.
Where
it was the way he reacts to it. And
he falls onto
Utter
that
shock.
electric bit at the bottom, and then just falls on the floor. And Reinhardt's like, he was a nice man.
He's lying on the floor thinking, this is going to make me want to stab bitches in the shower.
Kill the rest of them.
Yeah.
See, my favourite scene. I've always loved this film since when I was a kid, and Vincent is better than R2-D2 for me. It's where he comes up against Maximilian at the end, and Maximilian's already shot Bob, which is upsetting enough, and they have this choreographed fight, shall we say, where they ram each other and smack each other against walls. But then Maximilian grabs Vincent, and Vincent pulls out this large piece of metal and just drills into his chest, and you just hear Maximilian screaming, and you're like,
was there somebody in
there? Yeah, maybe.
And then he just,
like the other robots walking around, there might be someone in that.
He flips off into space, and Vincent comes and finds Bob, and Bob actually has this whole death sequence for a robot. It's like, go on without me, Vince.
We're the best.
They did try and make you like really like endear to Bob though. It's like when they're in like the kind of like rec room for the robots and stuff, and he kind of just met him, and he's like, don't piss that guy off, and he's like, they did things to me.
Did you ever go up against him?
Once.
What happened?
I beat him. He got so upset he blew a fuse. He had his revenge, though. He did things to me that I sure don't like to think about.
And you're like, oh, they raped the bot. You know,
Raped the robot.
This is the problem with watching it as an adult. Like, yeah, I think like the cross between the adult and the kids thing of watching it is if I'd have watched this as a kid, I'd have enjoyed it probably as much as I enjoyed Star Wars. With the whole like, yay, lasers, robots, all good. Watching it as an adult is you just can't help but think like, oh, that poor redneck robot. What did they do?
So, would you recommend it?
I'd recommend watching it. If you're like a fan of things like if you still enjoy things like Blake Seven, the old school Doctor Who and things like that, and like you said, the old school Battlestar Galactica, then yeah, totally, because it was just a film of the times in a way. I think. Other than that, I'd say watch it with an age appropriate child, and they'll probably enjoy it. It's just that last bit though for the kids with the whole. It goes really religious all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like they sort of go into hell, and then Max and Reinhardt kind of become.
One.
The whole two evils thing. It is really kind of biblical, actually. But I just think the kid watching it. If I'd have been watching that as a kid, it would have been my first what the fuck face probably. That was a bit crazy.
Yeah, the whole ending of the movie. It kind of catches you off guard because you expect them just to escape and you expect the credits to roll.
Just pure science,
and then exactly. Yeah. And then this is a traditional science fiction movie, just like. Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
It is classical sci-fi storytelling with lots of dark themes in there, and some spoilers ahead. If you do plan to watch the movie, skip this part. They do go through the black hole, and the film attempts to interpret what exactly might possibly, as a theory, happen to you, and. Trying to explore it in cinema form was bizarre, and it did have some very religious overtones, especially Maximilian's final words. Dr. Reinhardt's last words was "more lights," which was actually the dying words of the author who wrote Faust, which obviously was about making a deal with the devil, which of course was what symbolizes what this character has done throughout this film or the last 20 years. And the fact that it does appear like he is now in hell, or at least a guardian of hell, and the fact that he's merged with the robot,
such a weird
it is really weird. And at the same time, for the heroes of the movie, they're undergoing kind of like a recap of the entire movie in their heads, and you're kind of wondering how they haven't dematerialized in the black hole, and you kind of see them escape, and they just look around.
I think you can give it credit to making Disney maybe think at least of going in different directions, can't you? Do you know what I mean? For their first film like that.
They did write a novel to say at the end, the girl with the ESP manages to hold all of the crew together in their separate consciousnesses.
Yeah.
And the angel figure,
ESP ability.
The angel figure at the end of the film was to symbolise her helping them get through the black hole. And I always like to think, did they get back to Earth? Are they closer to Earth, or are they in another universe? But for me, it's a classic. I definitely recommend this film. If you've never watched a Disney movie because you don't want to see lions die and deers die and people stealing stuff. The Black Hole is a good film to start off with. It's dark, it's funny, it's got flying robots and lasers. It's just classic sci-fi. If you have, you'll enjoy it again.
I recommend you watch The Black Hole. It's a film that is almost forgotten, I would say, amongst its contemporaries, amongst all of the films that also came out around its time. So I think if you are looking for a nostalgic trip to old school science fiction storytelling, I think you will have a really good time watching this film. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Those other robots aren't any friendlier than Dr. Frankenstein's monster.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Maybe you should have smiled when you said it, Vincent.